Have you ever wondered about accessing your inner warrior, what it takes, what it means, and how it can help you live your truth and live the most amazing life that you were born to live? Well, if you have ever considered any of those things, today's episode is for you. I am sitting down with Joshua Page. He is an amazing soul, and he is going to rock your socks. He is a master electrician turned motivational speaker, author, and founder of Iron Warrior Awaken. After building multiple blue collar businesses, he now helps entrepreneurs and leaders live with passion, find purpose, and become the best version of themselves. His raw storytelling has inspired audiences from stadiums to prisons, reminding people that they were built for more. Joshua, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Kat. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for being here. I'm really delighted to have this conversation with you. A lot of people think I only sit down with woo-woo people or spiritual people, and I really like talking to all kinds of people because everybody is spiritual, right? Regardless of their walk of life. And I think you are so relatable to so many people because of your background. So I just can't wait to showcase you and what you're doing. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. I consider myself very spiritual. Hopefully, I fit in with your audience. I apologize to the audience. I'm losing my voice, but I do consider myself a very spiritual person. I'm very in touch with all the woo-woo, even though I don't talk about it. So I get it.
I love that. And I don't think being woo-woo makes someone spiritual. I think it's their heart that makes someone spiritual.
True. Very true.
So I'm delighted to introduce you to new walks of life.
Thank you.
Let's start from the beginning a little bit. You are a coach and a speaker, motivational. You seem to light a fire under people. But your background is, you said, an electrician and you shifted. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and why you've shifted to do this other work in the world?
Yeah, sure. Without going too much into my backstory, I think it's kind of needed. I came from a divorced family. I was probably about 11 years old. My mom got a cancerous brain tumor. She passed away when I was 13 years old, and I had to grow up really quickly. I lived at my dad's every other weekend until my mom died, and then I was forced to go live with them. I went to a trade school because I hated regular school. I knew I wasn't going to college. I didn't have money for any of that stuff. And honestly, I just hated school. School wasn't for me. I was suspended 3 out of my 4 years. I ran away from my dad's house twice. I had summer school for electrical related. My junior year, I almost had to register as a sex offender because I mooned another kid. And if he was going to press charges. So it was a world of crap back then, right? It was tough. I moved out when I was 18 years old. I went and lived with my aunt for my senior year, and then I moved out and got an apartment when I was 18. And when I was when I was 13 years old, I'm really fast. I was always talking to my friends' parents more than I was my friends. Like I was just an old soul. And growing up fast, I had to learn a lot of things quickly. I got into the trades. I did electrical. I did all this stuff. I was married. I've been married now for 18 years. So love of my life, Lindsay. We've been together 41. So do the math. But around year 9 of marriage, I think I was year 4 or 5 into the company, something like that. I had it all backwards, to be honest. I was putting so much of my heart and soul into the business. I was getting up at 4 a.m. I was going to work early in the morning. I wasn't coming home till 9, 10 o'clock at night. I was copying what other quote unquote successful business owners are doing. So I was dressing up. I was wearing a polo, nice clothes. I didn't laugh a lot. I wasn't having a lot of fun. I was very serious because that's what I thought you had to do to become successful. Home wasn't really fun. My oldest son was undiagnosed ADHD, and it was really tough with him. He was kicked out of a private Catholic school in second grade. My wife just wasn't happy with herself, and we were also trying to sell our house. And what really broke the camel's back was we were at a McDonald's drive-through. You can tell where we were at that stage of life. We were at McDonald's. I said, maybe we can't buy this next house because we're not meant to be together. And when those words came out of my mouth, it really hung in the air for a while. And I had to think about what the hell I just said. I didn't mean it, but it really was awakening for all of us. And I started to dive deep into books and myself and spirituality and just figuring out what the hell I'm doing. What is this all for? Like, where am I going? And that was truly my awakening because I was putting my business first. I consider it the upside down triangle, which
Okay.
is now what I call the warrior's core. But if you think of a triangle, you think of the flat side at the bottom. Well, think of the flat side at the top, and that's where my business was. In the
Okay.
middle was my kids, and at the bottom, the peak was my wife. And my thought process back then was so backwards. I thought the business was number one because it's what supported us. My kids were number two because they're my kids. They can't go anywhere, but my wife could leave me. So she was the bottom.
Mm,
And when we had those conversations and I started reading books and started finding out more about myself, I realized that I had the entire triangle flipped upside down. So
okay.
when I took that triangle and flipped it back up and put the base at the bottom where the business is, I realized, like a foundation of a house, if you don't have a good foundation on your house and then you build something, the house is going to fall down because the foundation isn't solid.
Right.
And the business needed to be the foundation. It was supporting us, my wife and my kids, like a foundation, but it should never be at the top. So now my wife is at the peak of the triangle. She's at the top. She's the most important before my kids and before the business. And once I flipped that triangle, that's when the whole awakening started. And that's when this whole process of Iron Warrior Awaken, the whole everything accumulated to where we're at today of speaking and coaching and really working with other blue collar entrepreneurs to never get to the point in life where I was, because that was my lowest and deepest and darkest point in my life. It was about 2017, 2018.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot. And I really appreciate you sharing your backstory, the rawness and the realness of it. I think it's relatable to a lot of people. I think when we look at success, people think, oh, people are successful, never had hard times. But some of the truly most successful people in their heart, like yourself, have been through some really difficult, challenging moments. And whatever has spurred them to do like you did, I love how you said you flipped the triangle, like they flipped the switch, something internally and made changes. So I'm I'm smiling. I'm thinking of your wife. Delightful for both of you to have worked through that together and be stronger than ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Not just building a business, but building a life and something of meaning. I wanted to ask you because you say you work with blue collar entrepreneurs. Why is that niche so important to you?
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't really start working with them until the last year because I didn't know what my niche was.
Okay.
Speaking, leading, and coaching and all that stuff. I was kind of just being broad about it. I wanted to speak to leaders, I wanted to speak to kids. I've also written 2 children's books on getting kids involved with the trades. So I've done a lot of that speaking
Awesome.
and storytelling and telling my story to inspire others. But this isn't helping. I need to find a niche. Who's really my people? Do I really relate to? And it's the blue collar entrepreneurs because I don't think they have anyone. I didn't have anyone to look up to. I didn't have a mentor. I was looking at people that were miserable. What I found out were they were miserable. They weren't successful, or maybe they were successful in business, but they weren't successful at home. And to
Mhm.
be honest, and excuse my language, but who gives a shit if we're successful at business? If we're not successful at home, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And that's really what's really changed me over the last year or two is I just kept asking myself the same question over and over. What is this all for?
Mhm.
Truly, what is everything for? What are we surviving for? What are we doing all this for? What are we working for? Why do we go to school, then get a job and pay taxes and die? What is this whole purpose? So for me, it is the blue collar entrepreneurs because there's so many other people for entrepreneurs
Mhm.
or big leaders or Fortune 500 companies or all this stuff. But how about the small people? How about the painters, the carpenters, the welders, the roofers that really are just working their butts off, but they have no clue what we're doing?
Right.
I mean, the very few, lucky few have become successful, which is great. But there's quite a lot of us that we're working hard, but we're forgetting our family. We're getting to this client's house, but we're not getting to our kid's soccer game. What is it all for? What are we truly working for?
I have a few questions and all of that.
Absolutely.
Let's start with that last phrase. Have you figured out for yourself what we are working for? What's it all for? Like, it-
I would love to say yes. I created a mission statement for myself probably 5 or 6 years ago, and it's to live a life without sacrifice so I can provide others a life worth living.
Hmm.
And the reason why I wrote that down was because I don't want to sacrifice anything in my life because I'm afraid of living. I was always afraid as an entrepreneur, as an owner of a company, I was always afraid to truly live, and I was worried what my employees would think or what
Mm,
other people in the community would think. Oh, must be nice, he's on vacation, or must be nice, he's got a truck, or must be nice. I was so afraid of how they were thinking, but I wasn't living,
mhm,
and it wasn't fair to me and my family. And then I started thinking, I want to live a life without sacrifice so I can provide others a life worth living. And what that truly means is I want them to be inspired and motivated by the way that I live, by
mhm,
the way that I show myself, by the way that I lead, by the way that I talk to people, by the way that I work. I'm not going to tell you what to do or tell you what works. But what I want you to do is just follow me. Watch what I'm doing and become inspired and motivated just by that. So, have I figured out the question, what is this all for? I don't I don't really know. I just know that today and tomorrow is not promised. I mean, all we have is this moment right here, right now. And I I don't know if I'm going sideways, but I
okay.
read a lot of obituaries, which is weird, right? Napoleon Hill said to start with the end in mind. So think about your death, think about your obituary, think about how you want to be remembered, what you want to be talked about, your legacy. And to me, I look at a lot of these obituaries and they're like this big.
Mhm,
You know, Joe Smith died 46 years old, worked at such and such factory, left predeceased by mom and dad or whatever, and then that's it. And
mm,
I look at it, it's like, we only have this one life. Why are we allowing ourselves to live so mediocre? This is it. This is all we got. So for me, that awakening that inner warrior in all of us removes that mediocrity. We only have today. That doesn't mean go jump off a cliff and go skydiving today and spend all your money, but it truly means living this life that we have. This is all we got.
mhm. I really appreciate that. I've been switching into that modus operandi myself for a long time, and really living fully. And some of that is not about all the glamorous things, but really about busting through those fears that
It
hold us
is.
back and keep those limitations of our thoughts, our perspectives, what we want to do. So I'm really excited that you're stepping more and more into this work. As a mom of children that didn't go to college in a town where that was the thing to do, and one has become an electrician and has been apprenticing and doesn't have the best role model and has switched to plumbing, I really think there's a need for what you do and who you serve. So I thank you for that.
I appreciate that.
I also think that we forget that our home is our sanctuary. And there are people that work in our homes to keep the electrical moving, the plumbing moving, the garage doors working. And we scoff at that, right? That these
Yeah.
trades are not important, or those people are not successful, or they're not this or that. I've heard all the stories because I have the kids and they feel bad that they didn't go to college, but they're not cut out for college. And that's okay. Not knocking it. I went to college, but can't we treat all people with respect and dignity? And the trades
Yeah.
are dying out, and they're highly needed.
Well, unfortunately, in the trades, there's a very high suicide rate and a very high drug use rate in the trades that nobody really wants to talk about. And it's because of the pressure that we're all put under. The
Mhm,
pressure, the injuries, the work ethics that we're doing up and down ladders and carrying blocks and stones and all that. Our bodies are taking a toll. And I just don't think we're supported enough. So I want to blaze that trail down and let these other entrepreneurs know that we're doing the right thing, but just because you're a great carpenter or a great painter doesn't mean you're great at home. So how do we align them? And everyone wants to be a life coach and all this stuff. And for me, I've really created my own little avenue called the alignment coach because that's what I'm doing. I'm aligning the business with the family and making sure that we're all cohesive together. Because at the end of the day, whether people believe it or not, it's not truly about me. It's
mhm,
about the partner at home. It's about my wife. Or
mhm,
if you're a female entrepreneur, it's about your husband at home. You
mhm,
know, it's not just enough to make sure that I'm taken care of. It's the one at home that we have to go home to. The most important one is the partner at home. And we forget about that one because that partner is supporting the entrepreneur. That
mhm,
partner is allowing the entrepreneur to work the extra hours or go to the client's house at night or do the estimates early in the morning while the partner's at home helping with the kids or the laundry or the dishes or all that stuff. People forget about that partner, but that partner is just as important as the entrepreneur.
I really appreciate that for someone who's seeking a partnership in a different way. It's nice to hear that there are men out there that believe that. And not that the other person, I want to say this always has to be first, but be a priority in your relationship, be a priority because that trickles down into your kids, your family, your business, and
Yes.
in the world. I like that. Tell me a little bit more then about alignment. Is this stuff that you write about in your book? And do you want to talk about your book a little and how you're presenting some of this to the world?
Yeah, so I just finalized a book. It's going live January 13th, 2026. Right now you can get it as a pre-launch. I'm giving it away for free. Just got to pay for the shipping. But the book's called What If You're the One? It's how to unlock passion, purpose, and power in every area of your life.
Mhm.
And the way I wrote the book was a lot of my own personal stories, but also reflection questions and teachings and lessons learned along the way. And one of the biggest ones I love the chapter is called Unspoken Expectations. And it's based on a lot of our own stories and movies in our head of how we imagine things are going to go or how
Right.
we imagine things should operate or people are going to talk to us.
Mhm.
And when that doesn't happen, we get upset or angry or mad based on an unwritten contract that that person didn't sign up for.
Right.
Just because you had the movie in your head of, oh, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to get flowers or chocolates, or I'm going to take her out to dinner or whatever. And then you get home and they don't want to do that, or they're not happy, or they had a bad day, or whatever else. Well, now your night's ruined in your head. You're thinking, man, they're a jerk. They're mad. They're angry. Whatever happened to them, they're not thankful. No, you had them sign a contract that they never signed up for. So the unspoken expectations, that's not right. I think our biggest disappointments in life is having the wrong expectations
Mhm.
because we're already failing if we didn't communicate that clearly enough to the other person. How is that their fault? You
Right.
know, and too much of what we do is in our heads. Whether we want to admit it or not, we all talk to ourselves. You know,
I know.
we all talk to ourselves either out loud or in our heads. It's when we start answering that might be an issue. It's those movies that we play in our head of how things are going to operate. And when it doesn't happen, we
Mhm.
blame it on the other person, and it's not that way.
Yeah, I agreed. I used to say one of my taglines was I help people get out of their head and into their heart, mostly because I was always in my head and it's so
Yeah,
easy to go there, not 'cause
it's hard. It's hard work. It's a lot of deep spiritual work to get
yeah,
out of your head, and it's not one and done. That's a lifelong process to really get out of here. It
right.
really is.
Yeah. And to become aware of when we slip back in there and what are our tools to get into our heart, into our body, into our life, right? Really pay attention. So I appreciate that because you're really talking about that paradigm shift in our head and not blaming, not being in the victim stance, really taking ownership of our thoughts, our feelings, our mindset, and if we choose to, consciously making a change within
Yes.
ourselves. And I think that that's particularly important right now and difficult because culture is teaching us to be victims so we can be controlled and do what other people want, right? So you are taking a stance for I am here for truth. I am here to look at my shadows, my part in it, and make the shifts because I want to live a life that I want to live and leave a legacy that's important to me,
Yeah.
right?
No, absolutely. And I don't think leaders are born. I think leaders are created every single day. I think that is true leadership is
Mhm.
not becoming the victim, is not blaming. It's taking ownership, whether it's your garbage or not, your ownership. You need to own it. And especially as a business owner, when things go right in the company, it's not me. When things go wrong in the company, it's all me. And that's the only way to respond.
Okay.
That is a true leader. Wherever you are, I don't know. I guess some of us are want to be leaders and some just want to be followers, and that's okay. Not everyone's going to be a leader. Being a leader takes a lot of work. It's a lot on you, and you need to take that ownership again, whether it's your crap or not.
Do you think that everybody is a leader in the sense that if they choose to, we lead ourselves first, right?
Yeah.
Where we lead, like you said, your company the way that you do.
I think we are leaders if we choose to, but I think people that don't choose to do need to be led.
Okay.
that is up to them to find the correct leader or mentor to follow.
Gotcha.
Because you can follow the wrong ones. There's plenty of influencers all over TikTok, Facebook,
Been there.
Instagram. You
Yeah.
can look at all of them and think, oh man, that guy's got it all together. Or that girl's, she's got so much money. She must be great. Well, you don't know what it's like. But that's like driving down the road and be like, oh, they're rich. Look at that house. Okay, let's look at their credit card bills.
Mhm.
You know, just because who cares who's rich, to be honest? I mean, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. I've gone to 2 funerals for 2 of my employees in the last 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And guess what? Nobody cared how rich they were or how much money they made. Nobody talked about in the eulogy on how much money they made. They all talked about how much fun they were and how much laughter they're going to miss. And one of them was a skydiver and how much he loved to jump out of planes. One of them was a mother of 5 and a grandmother to 4 and how much they're going to miss that.
Mhm.
Nobody talked about money. Nobody talked about the car that they drove or anything. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't freaking matter.
I really appreciate you sharing that. Um, eh, I do. And I'm not going to get into why, but thank you for sharing your heart and your truth because it's just
Absolutely.
roaring out. And I am very sorry for your loss of both
Yeah.
of
Well,
you.
thank you.
Lost you in 3 months. Let's stay on leadership for a moment. Do you have any role models or mentors or leaders that you really look up to that have inspired you or shaped the way you are or are becoming?
People always ask me that, and I'm getting a little emotional just because I don't think I do.
Right.
Although my mom was a big part of my life until she died when I was 13. And I've been living with it every single day to just make her proud. So to me, that's been enough. My grandfather was a big influence in my life because he took a really dad role of mine and somebody who I looked up to be. I want to be like that when I get old and become a dad. And one day a grandfather, long, long, long time away. I think that's probably why I'm the leader I am today, because I want others to have what I didn't have. And not in the monetary way. I just want them to be able to have the availability to look up to someone and follow me. Even if I don't know that that's happening, that's okay too. Right? Does that make sense?
It does. That was going to be one of my other questions. Are there situations or people that inspired you to become the leader that you are because you didn't have that and you just did it? And it does make a lot of sense. And it makes sense that those people that have touched your life, like your mother and your grandfather, that type of leadership also matters. And I think we've forgotten that in this culture. Like,
Yeah.
because of all the influencers and things, like, the only thing that matters is money to too many people. And let's not dismiss it. It's important because in this culture, we don't live on barter energy.
True.
We need it to live, but it doesn't define us and it doesn't make us a better person or more successful or a better friend or the person to have fun with. There's so much
Yeah.
more to us. We're so complex and we're relational beings. And you're speaking to the heart of it. So I thank you very much for that.
Yeah. I've done a lot of thinking about that word legacy. Originally, I used to think legacy was when you had your name left on like the hospital wall or a golf tournament named after you. But the more I thought about that, especially in construction, that hospital is going to get demoed one day. And that hospital wing that was named after you is not going to be anymore. It's going to be after the next person that gave him a ton of money. And the golf tournament will be great for a few years until someone retires or doesn't want to carry on the torch anymore, and then your name goes away. But true legacy, you're doing something to me, Kat, because I'm getting emotional again. But
Take all the time you need.
true legacy is the way that you make people feel inside of them when they think about you 5, 10 years from now.
Mhm.
When they describe you after you're gone in 5 or 10 years, and they think about the laughter that you used to bring or how you made them feel, or the one day that you pulled them aside and gave them a hug, that's true legacy. That can never, ever, ever be replaced. And that will be remembered forever because that will become a story that that person will then tell their children and say, hey, you know what? I met this guy one time or I met this girl one time and she said this or did that. And I just remember the way that she took care of me or he took care of me. And then that story will get passed on to the next generation, and then the next generation and the next generation. Your name at a golf tournament will not be passed on, unfortunately. And whoever's listening has golf tournaments named after their aunts or uncles or whatever. I'm sorry, it's just not going to continue forever. But true legacy is the way that you make people feel on the inside when you're gone.
Mm, that's cool. And how you make them feel when we're here, right?
Yeah,
For myself, I know in my own journey, I've made my kids feel not how I wanted to make them feel. And that was a big wake up call to shift for myself, but also look at what created that in me. And I know
mm,
this isn't about me, but I think that we make people feel all kinds of ways. And if we intentionally or unconsciously continue in patterns that hurt people or make them feel bad or not worthy enough, that's not the legacy I want to leave. But as a business owner,
true.
how do we want to leave our people feeling? Do we want our employees to want to show up for work, to want to take pride and do a good job within our organization? If we make them feel bad and we dismiss them all the time and we leave those internal feelings, it is about that long-term legacy. What about the here and now as well? How do we really want to show up? There's no right
Yeah,
or wrong. The world is great. Without the contrast, we wouldn't even know, right? I think it goes back to your message in the beginning. It's that inner game. And how do we want to show up? And how do we want to be? And do we want to unleash this inner warrior or inner other parts of ourselves?
agreed.
I thank you for being the Iron Warrior. I've been wanting to ask you, because I've interviewed people in the past about the word iron. What does that mean for you? Is there something that sparked that particular phrase, Iron Warrior?
I was looking, honestly, I was just trying to figure out what was deep inside. And for me, iron and strong and malleable at the same time. Warrior is just, they're the first ones out on the battle. They're the first ones to stand up. They're the first ones to lead. They're the first ones to pick someone up off the ground, to raise them up. A lot of that came from, I was reading a story about Sparta, and the warriors in Sparta weren't looked down upon. Even the wives and the moms, they pushed their sons out to war, and their job was to either come back as victors to win the war, or they were carried back on their shield. But if they came back as losers and didn't have their shield, that means that they ran away. And that's not what it was about. It was you either win or you get carried back on your shield, but you don't falter, you don't come back, you don't run away, you don't complain. And to me, that's what a true warrior is. And the awaken part is because when I was in that McDonald's drive-through, my wife, that was the awakening within me. That was something truly inside of me that said, holy crap, we've got to make a major change here. And to me, it just all came together as Iron Warrior Awaken, where that's the awakening inside. If you have that feeling in the pit of your stomach that you're made for more, like for me, I always just thought myself I was an electrician, but it was like, no, there's something else in here. I'm not just an electrician. I can't just have my obituary say Joshua Page, Master Electrician. That's just not enough. And I'm not about titles, but that just didn't fit well. I knew I had something inside of me. And I think a lot of us do, but we're so afraid to get it out there. We're so afraid to dance. We're so afraid to create, to be the artist, to get up there and speak, to be the person we want to be. We're so afraid of what people are going to say or think or do. But who cares? Many years ago, I always thought to get up on the dance floor at a wedding or a party or something, I had to have a couple of drinks in me and then I'd feel like I could dance. That's not the case anymore. I don't care what people think or say or do. I'm going to get up there and dance. And especially, I'm going to dance every damn time with my wife because I don't know when the last time is going to be. I don't want that to be, no, I'm not dancing today because, XYZ. Don't be afraid. But too many of us have that feeling in the pit of our stomach. We're just not doing it. And they even say the most expensive places in the world is not Dubai. It's not all these islands. It's not celebrity houses. No, it's the graveyards. It's because of all these dreams that people have died with that they never got out to put out into this world. And I think that's what pushes me so much is I want to make sure that everyone can live the life that they're truly destined for, not just this mediocrity in this 2 paragraph blurb of their dash in the
Mhm.
obituary at the local funeral home whenever they pass away. Because that will honestly probably be the last time anyone mentions your name in print, if
Mhm.
you really think about it.
For most people, yeah, agreed. I love the passion that you bring to this and what inspired that phrase, Iron Warrior Awakening for you. The part about fear, because I'm someone that let fear hold me back a lot in my life, but it wasn't just my fear, it was like my mother's fear. And when I was in California recently, one of the things that I was afraid of is driving on windy mountain roads. To your point, I am either going to let this stop me and not go see these beautiful views, or I'm going to feel afraid because I'm
Mm,
going to honor the fear. Sometimes it's real, but I'm
yeah,
going to do it anyways. And then drive through that fear because when we do that in one area of our life, whatever it is, it ripples into other areas.
absolutely. How did it feel when you drove through?
Fucking amazing. Once I was on the other side, excuse my language, I got to this point, I put in my GPS, I'd already been driving. I mean, I was staying at a house, the hairpin turn was only enough for one car. And you
Wow.
had to go up and keep climbing. But then I went out to Point Reyes. People are like, you really got to go out there. And I put it in my GPS and I went through the mountain roads. There were 2 lanes or 1 lanes. I was scared. I did it. And then I get out there and it's like, oh, you still have 11 miles to go. It's another 45 minutes. And I was like, oh,
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
going to do this. To your point about partnership and marriage, I've been going through divorce for a long time. And, it takes two. And one thing my husband at the time did was he always drove on those roads. He wasn't afraid. And it's like, do I want to go see that lighthouse or do I want to let the fear rule me? So I drove those 11 miles and I was nervous, not as afraid as before, but the views were spectacular of the ocean waves crashing out of the corner of your eye, and you get there, it was beautiful, and so on the way back, I was less afraid, right?
Mm,
And you just keep building that muscle. So, and I think a lot of people live with fear about so many different things, and to your point, it's in our head, but it's also in our nervous system. It's in our
yeah,
emotional field. There's so many ways to work with it, and I love that you're an electrician by trade. One of the energy work practices that I've created of my own. I have a 30-page paper on it and I compare it to the electrical wiring in a house. So
nice.
for another time, but I
Huh,
love houses. And I think there's a lot of great analogies here, but I wanted to circle back to iron for a minute, if that's okay.
yeah,
I had the pleasure of interviewing a couple of people a few years ago from very different walks of life. And Aaron Walker, he's a men's coach. It's more Christian based, and his business is called Iron Sharpens Iron.
mm,
Really stuck with me. And then I interviewed this woman from Africa who had escaped a very abusive marriage and tells her story. She's brilliant. And she said the same phrase, iron sharpens iron. What does that mean?
from the Bible, yeah.
Are you familiar? I don't
But
know.
there's also a phrase that says friends sharpen friends as well.
Mhm.
It's community that sharpens each other.
Yeah.
Iron sharpens iron, I agree, but there's also community in there as well. And I'm probably not the best to talk about it because I'm not a lone wolf, but I keep my circle tight and
Mhm.
I've had a lot of loss in my life, so I don't like losing things. So iron does sharpen iron, and it's good to feed off of each other and talk to each other. Friends sharpen friends, and community sharpens community.
Mm. Well, and I love how you just expanded that because to me, that phrase is like partly we are who we hang out with and who we spend our time with.
Yeah,
You keep your circle small. I've begun to really do the same thing because not that I don't like people and I love to interact with people, but I don't want that influence. Our energy systems are very porous, so it's okay to give ourselves permission to keep it tight. Or
yeah,
in certain periods of our life, community is so important. We are relational beings and we can sharpen or become very dulled by who we hang
very,
and who we choose
very, very
as our
true.
mentors or our leaders. For anybody who's curious, that verse is from Proverbs 27:17. We are getting close to the end. I feel like I could talk to you for hours about some alignment with certain things, but are there anything about leadership or being conscious or awake in your life? Because that phrase awaken to me is in your title is not about being, whoa, it's about being awake to yourself and to the richness of life. Can you speak to any of that about leadership, consciousness?
So one of the major things that actually was a major change for me, and I'll get a little bit of a story here, is a book called Just Listen by Mark Goulston, Goulston. Mark Goulston passed away a few years ago from cancer. The book Just Listen is a phenomenal book, and it really taught me how to stop talking when other people are talking and really empathetically listen to people. And I think when we empathetically listen to people and we give people the chance and the time to actually exhale,
Mhm.
you will have some of the best conversations you've ever had in your life. And you don't even need to say more than 2 words, right? And it's because as humans, we don't get that. It's never given to us. There are so many people that are listening to respond, or they want to give their story, or no, you shouldn't do it this way, or you should have gone that way, or I told you so. There's nobody, literally nobody that just says, go ahead. And what else? What
Mhm.
else? What else is going on? And they just give you the time and space. Those people are a true gift to this world because it doesn't happen. So for me, the leadership, authenticity, the awakening, all of that, it truly comes from listening and giving people the chance to talk because it doesn't happen. And to me, that's my ability to open my heart to others and to give them that time.
Mhm.
And when I wrote my children's book, my first one was Your Daddy Do. I started going on podcasts and radios and all this stuff. And one day I got an email that says, yes, I'd like to talk to him. And I looked down at the signature line and it said Mark Goulston. And I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
get the F out of here. So I was actually on Mark's podcast being interviewed about my book. And I don't know, I had a celebrity crush or something. I didn't know how to talk to him because I'm like, this is insanity. How did I just learn everything from his books? And then here we are being interviewed by him. Like it was crazy. It was
That's
unbelievable.
I love
Yeah,
that. So
it
I'm
was
going to
really
invite them
cool.
to get Mark's book, but I'm also going to invite them to get your book and get on the wait list. Tell people how they can do that, Joshua.
So website, it's book.ironwarrioroawaken.com/book. And we are on the pre-launch. You're not buying the book. I'm giving the book away for free right now because it's on the pre-launch. I just wanted to get it into as many hands as possible. Unfortunately, it's not going to ship until January 13th, 2026, but you can pay for the book. There's some other bonuses in there that you can sign up for. It's free plus shipping. The shipping $14.97. It's coming out to you. It's What If You're the One, How to Unlock Passion, Purpose, and Power in Every Area of Your Life. I think it's like 150 pages. I didn't want to write this huge book. I really wanted it to be in your hands and to really read it and then reflect. I left some note pages in the back so you can highlight and write down your notes. I wanted it to be a book that you don't just read and throw away or just put on your nightstand. Like I really want you to read it and understand where I'm coming from as a human, a blue collar entrepreneur. I didn't go to college. I'm not this big smart guy. I've learned everything I have in the streets. I made a lot of mistakes, a lot of failures, but it's going to speak to a lot of people, not just blue collar entrepreneurs. It's going to speak to a lot of people and their partners and even the teenagers if they want to read it. I think it's just going to be a great book for today. And it's called What If You're the One because I really want you to ask that question. What if I'm the one? What if I'm the one that people are waiting for? What if I'm the one that really needs to get out there and stop living with fear? What if I'm the one that needs to switch jobs or go to this position? I mean, we only have one life, right? And I know I talked a little bit about a death, and I don't want it to be in a bad way, but I just want you to open up your mind and your heart that this is it. So don't live with fear, but truly, what if you're the one? What if you're the one that's going to change your family's legacy or your family or whatever it is?
Mhm. I like that. I will sit with that question. What if fun? And I hope other people will do. And I mean, seriously, everybody has a gift to unleash in this world, whether they recognize it or not. And we touch people's lives.
Absolutely.
How do we want to touch them? And what legacy do we want to leave in that feeling? And you talked so beautifully about that. Just food for thought, right? So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
I appreciate you so much and your
No,
work,
I appreciate you.
your energy and your passion about all of this. It's really a beautiful thing. I thank you for being here for our listeners. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll find the link. We'll put it in the show notes. Any final thoughts before we close?
Live with passion, find your purpose and become the best version of yourself, because no one else is going to do it for you and no one else is coming out to save you.
Right. Well, there you guys go. No one is coming to save you. Do it yourself. Drive yourself on the mountain roads, whatever it takes. You heard it from Joshua. Get his book. Joshua, again, I really appreciate your time, your presence, your energy, your expertise. You are brilliant. Don't even ever dismiss yourself like that again. You're brilliant. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your heart and your rawness and your truth. Listeners, if you're still here with us, thank you for your time, energy, and presence. I hope there was value in this episode for you, and we will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye for now.